Due to the graphic nature of this programming, listener discretion is advised.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea.
On this episode of Cigars and Sea Stories, Sebastian Jocelyn, Tim Parkhurst, and Mike Penny sit down for a quick little topic of discussion.
So what should we talk about?
A variety of things. I mean, that's really what the show is all about.
Well, I know that. We did that last time. We gotta,
but it's...
gotta pick something to start with.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where when Brian's here and we're doing Q&A type stuff, that's like a topic, and then we'll jive off like what we think on that topic.
Yeah.
He'll probably ask you the same questions, to be honest with you. And then, yeah. But when our good friend Tim Parkhurst is in the studio, we like to talk a variety of different things that have to do with current events and political discussion.
Oh, you want to open that can?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I'll have you know.
Politics. Are we gonna go political on this website?
I'll have you know that you are listed as our political correspondent in the field.
Oh Lord.
Under the business plan. You're welcome. No big deal.
Yeah.
I decided to hit your sweet spot right there.
Well, I meant to ask though. I mean, are we gonna go political on Cigars and Sea Stories and Blood Stripes?
Yes, but no. I mean, it's not the show's opinion. I mean, Cigars and Sea Stories.
Well, then we need to put a great big freaking disclaimer because I'm going to say some shit that's going to piss people off. I can guarantee you right now. I started to write a piece. I haven't published it or sent it to anybody except Bennett. Yeah. I just started it. It was a rant. It was like 3 a.m. and I couldn't sleep. And so I'm like typing away on Word, right? So I'm serious about writing when I open up a Word document.
Absolutely.
Right? Because usually I'll just like, if somebody says something really stupid on Facebook, I'm not a big Facebooker. I don't troll.
Right.
And I don't respond to every little thing. I don't freaking care. Most of the people are idiots. So
right.
So I just ignore it and I blow it off and I go away and go somewhere else, to avoid those kind of people. But every now and then, somebody will say something that's so ignorant or so out of place for the forum, right? Because maybe I know the person whose timeline they posted it on, and I know the intent of their original post.
Yeah.
And the comment is just like way freaking off base, and I just got to respond. I'm like, dude, whatever. And I'll write these monologues that are like several paragraphs minimum. That they're of a quality that you could publish them.
Right.
But I just write them and hit send. Without any review, no editing, just bam, gone. But this one thing that I sent to Bennett for a review, I only sent it to him because I knew that I was going to really freaking piss a lot of people off. Basically, the gist of the article, and I got about a page and a half of copy on this. The gist of it was that I'm blaming civilians for the 22 a day.
All right.
I'm blaming America for the 22 a day.
Yeah, and the complacency and the...
Well, there's a whole lot of... And I start going into it, and it's not... I'm not placing specific blame on any particular individual.
Right.
But... And I kind of got into... And disclaimer to anybody that's listening to this, I don't know if you're going to publish this freaking little deal here now.
Oh, of course.
Okay,
Why
whatever.
wouldn't we?
That's fine. Yeah, okay.
Our political correspondent is
all right,
in the studio.
ruin my future because somebody's going to issue me death threats and I'm going to blow up my house. All right, but so I don't blame. I'm not a victim type person. I don't just blame people for my ills and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And I don't like to just blame people en masse for anybody else's ills.
Yep.
But kind of the gist of what I wrote, and I'm trying to recall this because I haven't looked at it since I wrote it like a month ago at 3 a.m. But there's a couple of points. One, military men and women go where we're told to go by our political leadership. Period. Yep. Doesn't matter if you're a 4-star general. Yep. You go where you're told to go and do what you're ordered to do by the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States. That's it. It's just that simple. How things get done once you get there, well, that's where the generals come in and all that crap. Got it. Okay, no problem. But, you want us to go to Iraq or to Afghanistan or to Libya or to Bosnia or to any of these places that we go to, Some general didn't just up and say, "Oh, we should go there."
Right.
No, that didn't happen. It never happens. It's always by some directive of our civilian national command authority. Period. Well, who elects those people? America.
Yeah, America as a whole.
So if you don't like the wars that we're fighting, if you don't like the way those wars are being fought, then fucking stand up and elect somebody else that'll make better goddamn decisions on where the fuck to send us and what to do when we get there.
Agreed.
You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
Absolutely.
So and this all came out of a radio interview that I was asked to do. For a local station.
Yep, I listened
in
to
Morehead
that. That was
City.
good.
Yeah, it was about kind of a response to the American Sniper movie.
Where was it again? I'm sorry.
The station was in Morehead City,
Okay.
North Carolina. They're a local station. They're on AM and FM. Can't remember the name of it. Anyway, but Lockwood. God, what's his last name? Lockwood is his first name. You can't forget that name. Anyway, great guy, real nice guy. Did a great job of doing the interview. But the gist of it was he had some other guy on that I guess has been on before who was, he's always pro-military and blah, blah, blah. And then he had me follow up. And the only reason I was there, I found out about the interview being done because I stopped into one of my favorite gun shops. And the owner of the gun shop was like, "Hey, you were a sniper, weren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, way back in the day." It's like, "Well, I happen to know a guy who's going to do a radio program tonight, and he wants to talk to a real sniper." I was like, "Well, you can't find somebody else?" And he's like, "Well, no, you're the only one I know." And at first I said no, but he actually called the guy right there in front of me, while I was in the gun shop, and he put him on the phone with me. And the guy was like, "Look, man, it's, we're not going to put you on the spot. I'm not going to try to like twist what you say or anything like that." He explained to me what it was all about. And I was like, "Okay, fine, whatever." So, and it was pretty cool. Basically all he wanted to know really was from my perspective, what is it to be a scout sniper in the Marine Corps? Mm-hmm. He wasn't asking me a bunch of political questions and stuff like that. It was trying to help the public understand, what kind of mindset snipers have in general. What does it take to be a sniper? One of the things he asked me, I think, was, what's the most important trait in a scout sniper? And of course, what they taught us in the scout sniper basic course was equanimity. They pounded that in you. Equanimity. What the hell is equanimity? Well, it means the ability to keep your cool under pressure. Calm, cool, collected, right? You're in your bubble. Nothing phases you.
Right.
You can't be stressing out and freaking, you can't be doing that.
Right.
And function as a scout sniper. It doesn't work. So, but that was the thing. And, he asked me, different things about the mechanics of, what do you do in sniper school? What kind of things do they train you to do? What are some of the skill sets and blah, blah, blah. And when you graduated, what did you think? How was it when you went back to your unit? And one of the things I told him, I was like, well, it was the day I graduated, I began to realize how much I didn't know. And it was terrifying because I had learned so much that I now understood that there was this whole world of knowledge out there that I still didn't know. And my fear was that I would somehow let my Marines down when I went back and would somehow not be able to teach them everything that I now knew I needed to teach them, And anyway, we talked about all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, he kind of opened it up and let me kind of pontificate a little bit. He was like, so what do you want Americans to take away from this, with this movie and blah, blah, blah. And I can't remember exactly how I said it, but it was something to the effect of what I just said about politically about, Americans elect their leaders, and a lot of times, for decades, for 100 years or more, the two big parties have had a lock on politics in America. And the Constitution never said that there can only be two major parties, right?
Right.
So how did that happen? Well, it just did, and we let it. We collectively, as Americans, let it happen. So now it's happened, right? Well, what are we going to do about it? Somebody needs to stand the hell up and put up another viable candidate and put some real money behind him that's not part of the Republican Party or the Democrat Party.
Mhm.
I'm not a big fan of either one. You know, I mean, I lean more conservative than I do liberal, but I also have very libertarian views when it comes to personal, government intrusion into my personal life.
Right.
Yeah. So the best parts of the liberal belief and the best parts of the conservative belief kind of blend together and make what I look at as libertarian, although I'm not a big fan of the Libertarian Party either, because most of the candidates they put up are nut jobs. But anyway, bottom line is to answer his question on the radio was, we need to, as Americans, take responsibility for the decisions that we make that lead to the decisions that the politicians that we elect make that lead to American servicemen and women going here or going there and doing this and that. Freaking Chris Kyle didn't wake up one morning and say, hey, I'm going to go shoot women and children. That's going to be badass. You know, he didn't do that. He trained hard to be a sniper and to be a SEAL and to do the things that the military asked him to do. Right.
Right.
And
absolutely.
When he got in theater, he was put into a situation that was made the way it was because of, obviously the tactical military decisions that had been made on the ground, but all of those decisions cumulatively that created the situation on the day that he did the things that he did were cumulatively caused by political decisions. War and the outcome of war and the end state of war is a result of failed politics.
Yeah.
And Americans just don't get that. They don't hear it. They don't understand it. It's never occurred to most of them. And when they start to realize that, maybe they'll start taking some responsibility for putting Chris Kyle in a situation to shoot a woman and child. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm
definitely makes sense.
I'm sure he didn't relish it,
No,
And,
I'm sure afterwards he wasn't going, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that was
It's a
that was my
heartbreaking
big thing. Yeah, because
Yeah.
there was a lot of talking heads out there that, were calling him all kinds of names, saying that he, a trigger happy, this and that, he loved it and blah, blah, blah. And, nobody loves that kind of crap. I mean, really, he's got a wife and kid at home. I mean, come on.
Right.
Anyway.
Just a guy doing his job. It's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the radio interview, but that it all ties into that piece that I wrote that I'll probably never publish because I'll get shot by some liberal,
Liberals don't shoot
or
people.
maybe even some conservative, because it was basically aimed at all of America. I don't literally think that each and every American is responsible for the veteran suicide rate, but I believe that Americans collectively, and therefore each of us holds some personal responsibility for all of the things that happen to our military men and women. And when we as Americans wake up and start making better decisions about what we're doing in the world and our interaction with foreign nations and the things that we think are deserving of expending the lives of young American men and women, because that's what it comes down to, It's, for a long time now, it's become acceptable, more and more so every day, there's this problem, some hotspot in the world, let's send American troops.
Right.
Now,
it's an all-volunteer force.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
They volunteered for it. Let's send them.
Let's do it.
Well, and now
Right,
the
they
big
don't care.
now the big watchword is no boots on the ground. No boots on the ground.
Right.
Really, it always fucking leads to boots on the ground.
No matter what.
It always does. How many times have we been to Iraq now since the invasion in 2003?
Oh, dear Lord. I don't even know.
Or I'm sorry.
Since we left in 2011?
In my career, how many times have we been to Iraq? How many separate campaigns have we had in Iraq since I joined the Marine Corps?
Oh, jeez.
3 separate complete campaigns.
Yeah, total campaigns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Gulf War, we didn't finish the job. I thought we needed to get rid of Saddam Hussein then. I didn't think we needed to occupy the country.
Right.
I don't think anybody thought we needed to do that. but we all knew he was a madman, and you know, how much worse could it be? You know,
Right.
you put another madman in charge, and you know, maybe we can deal with him a little better. I don't know, whatever. But bottom line is we had our intervention there. We left things basically in place, and then, you know, a substantial amount of time went by, and then 2003 we went back again for a whole nother war. And I'll be honest with you, the first one was done a lot better than the second one, because the first one we went in, we kicked their ass, and we left.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way to run a war. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I personally thought that we should have killed them, but that's just me personally. Bottom line is, you know, we didn't get a whole bunch of Americans killed, right?
Right.
And we degraded his military might to the point where, I mean, he was irrelevant militarily after that, you know? So then we went back in 2003, really fucked the dog on that. I don't think we should have gone to begin with, you know? That whole WMD thing wasn't complete crap, because I've seen WMD in Iraq. I've seen, you know,
Right.
I've seen mustard gas, you know, pop out of a mine that an Amtrak hit. You know, I've seen, you know, nerve agents and stuff being deployed on the battlefield. You know, so I know he had the stuff. That's not a question. The question is, did he have the ability to use it against us? And, you know, so that goes back to the broader question: is it worth expending American lives to go and stop him from having that capability?
Right.
I mean, he'd use the stuff on his own people, you know, in Basra, in that area, whatever. I mean, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But do we need to go and put American young men and women in harm's way and have all these widows and childless parents now because of something that's going on half a world away, when they cannot, you know, offensively come and hurt America?
Right.
If they can't hurt America, why the hell are we sending our guys over there to die, right?
Right.
So there was that. And then we had an arbitrary timeline to get everybody out. That got screwed up pretty bad. And very short time later, much to everybody's surprise, we're back again, because, you know, the power vacuum that was created, well, guess what? Some really, really, now that there's all these really bad nut jobs running around with these, you know, radical Islamic groups, that really didn't exist on the same scale as they do now. You know, a decade ago, I mean, they were out there. You know, 2 decades ago, you know, during the Gulf War time, you know, they've been radical Islamic extremist groups, you know, for several decades, for many decades, really. I mean, you go back to the Shah's time and stuff. You know, the people that you know, took over the American embassy in Iran and kidnapped, you know, all those Americans and held them for, what was it, 400 something days, whatever. Those were Islamic extremists, Iranian ones in Iran, you know, and who funds Hezbollah? Iran.
Right.
You know, so yeah, those guys have been around for a long, long time, but on the same scale, you know, taking over whole countries now.
Right.
You know, I mean, you've got the same basic, religious bent, right? And you know, the same funding sources funding the guys, AQI, the folks that are overthrowing the government in Yemen right now, ISIS that are in Syria, Iraq, where the hell else are they? They're somewhere else.
Oh God, all over.
Yeah, I mean, they're everywhere now.
They're in Saudi Arabia now too.
Yeah. You got Boko Haram. You know, you've got Al Shabaab, the dudes that just killed. They killed. I saw the latest numbers. It was like 100 and, you know, in the like 150 or something like that students in this college.
Yeah.
You know, Christians. You know, somebody tell me this is not a religious war.
Right. Oh yeah, of course.
We may not be calling it one, but our enemy sure as hell thinks it is.
Right.
Because that's exactly what they're doing.
Right.
They're killing anybody that doesn't believe in their religious belief.
Yes.
So, I mean, come on. Anyway.
No, I mean,
we're being disingenuous when we deny that it's a religious war.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's like we were talking about this the other day. You know, for instance, like I always make the claim that I'm not anti-Muslim, but I am anti-Sharia law.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, like, and it's the basis for a lot of their governing bodies that they have over in the Middle East and a lot of different areas, you know, but Yeah. I mean, if you don't have separation in church and state, then it's pretty easy to go fight religious wars till the end of time.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that because our enemy is making it a religious war that we need to fight it with religious aims. You know, we don't need to be. It doesn't need to become another crusade.
Right.
But you know, just the American concept of freedom of religion. You know, whatever religion you want to have, you know, we'll defend that right. The problem again, no matter how horrible those people are, and no matter what atrocities they might be committing, see, that's why they call it terror, right? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, as far as actual lives, right? D-Day, all right, Iwo Jima, the anniversary of the Battle of Iwo Jima, you know, came and went back in February. Yep. How many Marines died on day one of the Battle of Iwo Jima?
Oh, I don't know the number off the
Thousands.
top of my head. Thousands, yes.
Thousands,
Yes.
right?
Have you ever been in the Marine Corps Museum where it's got the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor and the USN anchor on the wall? You go through, it's awesome. You go through and there's like a...
I've been in the museum. I'm not sure what you're...
Yeah, okay, so there's a section in the Iwo Jima Memorial area, and you go through and you're in one of the original landing craft, like a faux landing craft, and they play the thing for the battle. And then on the other side, you have an actual Iwo Jima veteran who's standing there to tell you about the battle. And you go around, and you've got the flag that was photographed, and then you swing around that corner, and you've got all the EGAs and all the USN anchors for every... you know, Marine and Corpsman that was killed on Iwo Jima. Yeah. And you're like, wow, that is not a number.
That's a shit ton.
Yeah, that is a physical representation of all of those men who gave their lives. So.
Yeah, so I think throughout the Battle of Iwo Jima, I think there were 7,000 Marines killed. Something like that. So 7,000 something. Anyways, big number. And so you compare that number to the kind of casualties that are occurring in the Middle East, even in our active war zones where our American troops are engaged, we're not seeing those kind of numbers. No, we're not. We haven't since World War II, right? Or Korea, you know. But
Korea, yeah.
You know, so when a terrorist, ISIS, whoever, you know, hacks someone's head off on the news, you know, on video, and it gets on the news, right? It creates this hysteria, because people are shocked, right? It creates terror. That's why they're called terrorists. But is that really a reason to put a bunch of Americans in harm's way to go fight these people? Right. They're horrible. They're awful. But they killed one guy. Yeah. One guy. So because of one person's death, we're going to go put a large military formation over there that's going to purposefully engage in armed conflict, and certainly will get a bunch of us killed. Right. Is that worth that one?
Seems a little backwards.
It seems a little backwards. Yeah. Hey, I like Reagan's idea, you know, when Libya was rattling their sabers and crap like that back in the 80s, you know, send some F-111s in, drop a couple bombs on the leader's house, you know, and leave. You know, that was great. But, you know, the idea that we need to respond just because it was so awful visually, and, you know, it's gut-wrenching, and it strikes a chord when people see stuff like this on the news. Right. It doesn't mean, in my view, that we actually need to go over there and send in the Marines or drop in the 82nd Airborne. You know, I think we need to sit back and take another view that, you know, what is our involvement really going to end up doing?
Well, and that's the qualm I have with the civilian population along this line is their indifference to the effects of their decisions without weighing the cost. Let me rephrase this a little bit so I get it across right. So the thing I have against civilians is that now with social media, we have such an interconnectedness, yet we have less interpersonal communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than we ever have. And so you get these, quite frankly, effeminate, like, up in arms attitude about everything. I mean, you hear about some kid gets shot and everyone's like, choose a side, we must choose. And so that pussy state that we're in, that raw, feminine, codependent state where we have to know what our buddy is thinking in order to feel validated is bullshit. And we need to get over it as a nation. We need to nut up and stop. And I think if we somehow engage the population in that frame, I think it would do a hell of a lot more to further that goal, is because people aren't going to see that and maybe react as strong. Or
Take that call.
I'm just going to turn it off.
I
Or
left
they,
mine on. Nobody
they'll-
wants to call me.
So, for example, like we hide. I know, right? We hide our kids from all sorts of what's going on in the world until they're ready, and then by the time they do, it's like everything's a shock, and so it's kind of a weird time. It's hard to balance, like how to. So, but that's the big thing I have is just.
Well, yeah, it's knee-jerk reaction after knee-jerk reaction.
Oh yeah, it's just
Well,
it's so childish.
a big part of and I call it the liberal attitude. I don't know that it's necessarily indigenous to a particular political view, or maybe the political view comes out of this attitude. But there's such a tendency to, if you're not already a victim, we'll make you a victim. Let's turn ourselves into victims.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you started talking about that topic, I mean, it resonates because there's a lot of folks talking about that now online. I've seen quite a few articles about, the offense of taking offense, and, if you don't like something that somebody does, tough shit. Get a thick skin, get over it.
Right.
Don't take
Exactly.
such a, oh, that's so offensive. Oh my God. And get all up in arms and blah, 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 blah. Grow a fucking backbone,
Right.
Jesus.
Well, that's the masculine has been under attack in our nation
Yeah.
since
Well, you know who
the
it's being,
80s.
you know who it's under attack by? Men.
Mothers of America.
Men. It's under attack by men.
That's true.
Women
Playing a
can,
subservient
mothers
role.
of America can attack it all they want. The far liberal left, whoever. I mean, any organization, any group of people can attack whatever the hell they want to attack. But when it comes to, how an individual lives their lives, the only people that can change that are those people.
Right.
If manhood is under attack, I agree that there are people out there that, they have a pretty weird idea of what it means to be a man. They have weird ideas of what families are. They have weird ideas of what it means to be a wife and a mother. They've got all kinds of strange ideas that I don't necessarily agree with.
Right.
And they're free to have them. I don't want them, preaching it to me or my kids, but they can believe whatever the hell they want to believe.
Yeah.
And, the thing, though, is that as a man, I don't lose my manhood unless I give it up.
Right. It's like your honor.
Yeah, I stop being a man the day I give up being a man.
Yep.
Right.
And men have done that. There's a lot of men. You're right. You're absolutely right. So many of us as a community, I guess, have just kind of abdicated our role, our responsibility to be the man in the family.
Mm.
And, I'm not going to sit there and say women can't have leadership roles. It's not dogmatic like that. I don't.
Right. No.
I don't take it literally. When Jesus said that, a man should be the head of his household, and like Christ is the head of the church and all that. I agree with that. I don't take it so dogmatically that my wife needs to be subservient in every way, shape, and form. No. Because in the next breath, he says that we should love her as God loves his church, right? And, you don't love somebody that you just stuff in a corner and say, do what I say, right?
Right.
So, my wife, I hope I treat her like she's on an equal footing with me, but it's my responsibility to lead from the front. It's my responsibility as a man to set an example, to set the tone in my family. It's my responsibility to stand up and provide the security that makes my wife and daughters feel secure in their home and in their person. If I don't create that environment, nobody else is going to do it for me, you know?
Right.
So yeah, you're right, dude. That's a huge topic. That's a little off the Marine Corps stuff, but it totally plays right back into, you know, the way we Americans make decisions, you know, about politics and how that all plays into, you know, how we as veterans end up getting the shaft.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all one big circle, man.
Oh God, yeah, of course.
Well, I mean, you end up taking the only people that are with backbone, and
Right.
they all go and get bashed up, and you have them come back, and then,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
You have a broken generation of the ones who actually have the ability to stand up and be men,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah,
and,
that's,
and the ones that don't have the ability to stand up and be men, the ones who abdicated their responsibility are the ones that are left virtually unbroken and untouched by war and oblivious to the outcome of the decisions that they made.
right.
Oblivious, totally oblivious. It's mind-blowing the lack of comprehension a lot of my fellow citizens have about what's going on in the world around us.
Yeah.
And you know, I think veterans more than any other population group just get it because we travel, because we have to,
Right.
and we go places with intent. You know,
Yeah.
there's an intent when they put us on a plane or on a ship and send us somewhere, and the intent is usually to go into harm's way. So we pretty much take an active interest in what the hell's going on and why.
Right.
We
Right.
want to know the backstory. You know, if
Yeah.
I'm going to go and possibly get shot at, I want to know the backstory. What's really going on
Yeah.
in this country? What's really going on with, you know, with this group, with that group, you know, that I'm going to be confronting here in a very short while.
Right.
Well,
You know?
and-
And we
and
ed-
that's
so
just good
we
recon.
educate ourselves. Yeah, I mean, from day one in the Marine Corps, you know, you think about it, just any Marine growing up in any era in the Marine Corps, trying to stand a Marine of the Quarter Board or something like that. What's one of the things they always ask you a question on?
In regards to.
Well, current events. They always ask you questions about current events.
Oh, yes.
In addition
Yes.
to all the Marine Corps knowledge and stuff, they always throw something in about current events. Why? Because we need to be aware.
Yep.
We can't be sheep just hiding our head and taking someone else's word for it that this is what's going on. No, we have to be
Right.
educated. We have to review primary materials and, you know, dig through the original source of information to find out what's really going on
Right.
and not just take things at face value.
Well,
Because,
and that-
because our lives are going to depend on it.
Right. Right. And that's one of the things that we do so well is like it goes hand in hand with flipping the map around.
Yeah.
Trying to determine what the enemy is going to do.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just knowing thine enemy before you actually go into the fray. You know, I mean, the same could be said in today's, you know, tone in modern American society because it's like I don't view American citizens who are not veterans as the quote unquote enemy. I view the complacency that we're all dealing with. This like it's almost like this weird hibernation that's taken place. You know, where people just are like, man, whatever. I'm just gonna yawn, stretch, head into the cave, wake up when all this shit blows over. You
You
know,
talking about the baby boomers dying off, or
and
what?
it's like, what's that?
You talking about the baby boomers dying off, or what?
No, we outnumber the baby boomers. The baby
Yeah.
boomer generation made an entire new generation. But
You just reminded me when you talked about, you know, the hibernation thing and
Yeah.
you know just I don't care, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. Nick Koumalatos, a good friend of mine, he is the director of the Raider Project.
oh yeah,
Yeah, you heard of them? Good group. They're really doing good stuff, and Nick is the driving force behind that. They are a part of a larger organization called the Gallant Few, and the Gallant Few has another organization under it, like the Raider Project is under the Gallant Few. They have the Darby Project, which is for Army Rangers.
Oh,
And they
okay,
have a Raider project, which is for MARSOC, Recon, and Marines and stuff right now. And eventually they're planning on kind of branching out into all the different services and having different organizations for each population group within the military. But Nick just wrote an article on the Raider Project website that you should read. And have you heard about the mentality that's out there? There's a lot of people blogging about it and just posting stupid shit about, I give zero fucks.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Right.
A lot of veterans, right? And I know you were just talking about, the civilian population, Americans in general.
Right.
But he wrote this thing in response to this trend in the veteran population about, I just don't give a fuck. I could give zero fucks about this or zero fucks about that.
Right.
And so he wrote basically an article about why veterans need to give a fuck.
Yeah.
And 22 a day, that's a good reason to give a fuck,
Yeah.
right?
And I would imagine that number is
Oh,
quite larger in all actuality.
Yeah, that number is way low.
Right.
It's higher than that. We all know that, but I mean, I know just since I got out a year ago, I mean, there's been half a dozen people that I know that have killed themselves.
Yeah.
Just in the past year
Yeah.
since I retired, and some of them, a couple of them were older guys. Some of them were young guys that much younger than me. There's no freaking rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
Some of them were guys that everybody thought were doing freaking awesome.
Yeah.
There's no clue. Bam, gone.
That's like one of the things that I've noticed before in the men and women that I've seen personally that are close to me who wound up committing suicide later on is that you look at them when they were in the military and stuff, and a lot of them I didn't know them when they transitioned out. I went East Coast, they stayed West or whatever. But these were guys that how do we put it? Almost gave too many fucks. Is that a way to put it?
Yeah,
It's like they're
yeah.
so passionate about it and they love doing it and they're so wrapped up in it.
And that's why they're killing themselves when they get out, because
Some of them.
some of them, yeah. I could rail on this for a while, but
Well, it's
I
like
don't mean
one
to
of
interrupt.
one of my really good buddies, and he will remain nameless for this podcast, but he, in my opinion, was a very highly effective, armory custodian. So he worked the window, but had the cage, had the CMR ready. I mean, nobody was jumping through their own ass trying to get shit done for this dude. He just understood it and knew where stuff needed to go. But the problem was, and his point of contention was always with the company office. And dealt with a lot of stuff, leadership stifling him. He just thought very much so outside of the box. And that doesn't really work all that well while you're in the Marine Corps. It works well as a tactician on the battlefield, but if you have an SOP and a CMR to go off of, it doesn't really work all that well. So, it was really difficult for me to swallow the fact that he had wound up killing himself because he was such a highly effective guy and always had our shit locked on, squared away anytime I went to the armory window. There you go. You always had your weapon. Your cards were always in the right place. My shit always stayed on the rifle. How rare was that?
Yeah.
Right? You got like a Magpul angle forward hand grip. I mean, that some bitch ain't making it through to the next field op if you leave it on the rifle. I had like a whole thing of parts that I used to bring to the armory with me. But when he was working the armory, I always knew that all my shit was always going to be there. And it was like, God, and I knew staff NCOs where it was like, this dude, we showed up to the fleet together. We were both sergeants. Now this guy's all of a sudden a staff, and it's like, Jesus, off to bigger and better things, doing all sorts of shit, like running the show. This one guy I knew, he was running the S3 at the time, just running the show, and he wound up killing himself.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's heartbreaking.
I think one of the problems that the guys have related to that very type of personality
Yeah.
is, when they get out, when they were in, they had parameters They had left and right lateral limits. They,
Yep.
you know, the military is kind of easy that way. You know, you have a known quantity that you're working in. You know, unless you're just off working in a small team, you know, recon, special ops, whatever, things get a lot more dynamic and interesting sometimes. But, you know, in general, just life in the military, you know where you stand when you wake up every morning.
Right.
You know what you got to put on, you know, what clothes you got to wear, you know, what time you have to be at work, you know, there's a certain hierarchy, you know, with all the rank structure and everything, and everything is just so, right?
Right.
So that's all very structured. But then within that, you know, you've got these guys that are achievers. They want to do well, and and they work really hard at it to be the best they can be. You know, like this guy you're talking about, and what helps them to do that is having the mission.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's an intense sense of patriotism that drove them to enlist and serve their country, or whether it's just maybe not so much that, but once they're in and now they've got their brother to their left and their brother to their right, that they're, you know, they got their back, and that's their mission. You know, whatever the mission is, you've got a mission when you're in the military, even if it's a mission that somebody just gave you. You know,
Right.
that's your mission.
Yep.
You know, but a lot of the guys that are really successful, you know, like the guy that you're describing, you know, they find their own mission, right?
Yes.
In addition to the one that's handed down from their higher. And, you know, the day you get out and you take off your uniform, that mission's gone,
Right.
right? What's your mission now? What am I going to pour all my energies into?
Right.
You know,
You gotta find a purpose.
yeah, what am I going to devote my life to that's ever going to mean as much as that,
Right.
as backing up my fellow Marine, you
Yeah.
know, to my left and my right, you know?
Well, on that note, it's also the similar thing to where if you've ever been super busy during the week, and then suddenly you're excited for a nice long weekend, you get sick on Friday night as soon as work gets out, and you're like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I sick? But it's all that, like, you're just in go mode.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of guys get into go mode and they're accustomed to that, and then, you know, they stop PTing, or at least as much,
Yeah.
because the drive isn't there, that, you know, the structure isn't there to provide that.
Yeah.
There's not like a time in the morning where it's like, oh, well, everybody knows everybody's out PT and no one's expecting you to,
Yeah.
you know, there's no, I mean, so the body starts breaking down,
Yeah.
and then the mind starts breaking down because we wear each other like armor. I mean, we have that social interaction network to where, you know, you're never more than, you know, 150 meters away from one of your brothers that'll
Right.
carry you through whatever.
The
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
And it's everybody's willing to carry each other. I mean, they're gonna fucking give each other hell about it, but at the same time,
Right.
Yeah.
but that prompts that individual to grow.
To
it
push.
prompts them to push harder.
Yeah.
Makes them oddly more masculine.
No.
Starts getting the
Go figure.
chemicals flowing.
Yeah.
Seeing.
It's like going on a training hump. You know, you go on a 20-mile hump, and people are starting to fall back, and you know the guys, the successful guys, are they may not be the ones who run the best PFT, but they won't fall out on a hump
Right.
because they feed off that energy. They see a couple of guys starting to fall back, and they just push all the harder. It's all guts at that point.
Right.
And it's because they know they can't let their fellow Marines down. If they start falling back, they know that the guy next to them is going to have to grab their shit and carry it for them,
Right.
or grab their freaking, you know, pack straps and pull them along, or whatever the hell, you know. And nobody wants to feel that shame,
Right.
you know, of being carried along by somebody else. So we push ourselves harder, right?
Yep.
And you're absolutely right that you know, when guys get out, they lose the framework of the schedule and, you know, somebody telling me where I got to be and all that. And so the motivation to get up and do things kind of goes away. And I know you're supposed to be self-motivated and all that. I get that, but there's all these other external things that happen
yeah.
when you get out. You lose, sometimes, in some cases, you lose all connection with anybody you ever knew. You know, I feel real lucky to have you guys and some other people. You know, I still live close to the base, you know, so I'm still talking to the guys that I knew. But, when I got out back in the 90s, I went home to Kansas City. It's not a big military town.
Right.
I had friends from back when I was in high school, but nobody from the military. I was completely cut off from that community. And I'll tell you, that coupled with, the lack of structure and, I wasn't doing the things that were healthy for me like I did when I was in, and the stress of dealing with civilians who didn't get it, and the self-induced stress of blaming everything on them because I was just an angry young sergeant, and I didn't look in the mirror and say, Tim, you just need to freaking unfuck yourself and start putting in the work.
Right.
And it's easy when you get kicked in the balls enough times, get told no in job interviews enough, because you don't have a piece of paper that hangs on the wall,
right,
that you just collapse.
Yeah.
It's like you said about PT, and, you start getting out of shape, but then you also start to lose it mentally because, your physical body houses your mental body, and they work in unison with one another. And if you're unhealthy in one area, you're going to start to become unhealthy overall. And I think that's what's happening to a lot of guys. They get into that funk and it becomes a downward spiral. And if there's not somebody there that they can relate to, that they can look at and say, you know what, I respect what this guy's telling me because I know he's walked in my shoes.
Yeah.
Versus the guy that lives out in the, hometown USA, where
Right.
it's just a bunch of civilians telling him this and telling him that, and he just automatically shuts them out because they're not like him. And that's, right, wrong, or indifferent. That's just the way it is sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think those are some of the huge risk factors that, cause guys to, to get so down and depressed that they would consider,
Yeah.
ending it.
Well, what we should do here, I'll tell you what we will do is Tim Lawson of One Too Many Project. Tim Lawson is a fellow Marine, and I met him through a fellow Marine. They both served together on MSG duty, and he's a fellow podcaster. The One Too Many Project focuses on this, primarily on veteran suicide and whatnot, and the different things that lead up to it.
Yeah.
And I think that, even in this short little stint here, we've already been jamming on a few different things that, are just common factors that we're seeing. That's one of the reasons why I love Cigars and Sea Stories, coming together as a team, is because it's not one of these things where it's like, oh, we need to talk about all of our problems and stuff like that. No, we need to ruck the fuck up, come together as a mission, and go and do shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the thing is I'm such a huge fan of having guests on the show. We're going to be having regular Joe Schmo, Lance Corporal Schmeckatelli.
I know Joe.
You know Joe.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Schmo. Yeah.
Exactly.
Good guy.
Schmo Joe. He's kind of slow. But we're going to have all sorts of different guests, regular old jarheads and corpsmen that are going to be coming on, calling in, Skyping, hanging out, doing whatever. And the whole idea is that it's a platform of empowerment.
Yeah, man.
This is an on-demand resource. If you don't want to listen to our podcast, don't subscribe. If you do, and you want to be involved in the conversation, it's all right here. It goes back to what you were saying on Facebook. I don't deal with anything that's outside of a Facebook group. If I make a comment or something like that, you've seen me make posts on my timeline and stuff. But for the most part, if I'm engaging in a relative conversation or something, I'm in a Facebook group, because I know at least the people who are involved in that are relatively sane, for the most part civil, and that's what I like. I like having a civil conversation. If we don't agree, I don't care. That's fine.
Yeah.
My wife and I don't agree on helmet laws and safety belt laws. I 100% do not agree, do not believe in helmet laws, and I do not believe in seatbelt laws. It's just another way for them to collect revenue. They're so busy, wrapped up, sitting. All of my friends who are cops say this. They're sitting on the side of the road, actively looking for people who aren't wearing their seatbelts, instead of actively looking for where a potential crime could take place. They're wrapped up in just, oh, he doesn't have a seatbelt, I'm going to pull him over. And it deters them from their job.
Yeah.
That's That's an opinion-based thing. But the wife completely agrees with seatbelt laws, thinks it makes everybody safer, all of this other shit. Hey, at least she has a viewpoint. Whatever.
Yeah.
Get to the, put it in the ballot box.
Here's how I look at it. A little off topic, but I believe in seatbelts, and I believe in helmets.
Exactly.
But I don't believe in laws that tell me I gotta wear them. You know.
Freedom.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. I mean, if I want to
That's
be,
all I care about.
if I want to be a dumbass and ride down the road, and if I'm on my motorcycle, if I'm going to wreck, I'm going to wreck whether I have a helmet on or not.
Right.
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 But if I want to have a wreck without my helmet and strengthen the gene pool, well, so be it.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But just so y'all know, I've had a vasectomy, so the gene pool's already stronger. But
He snipped, ladies. Sorry.
yeah, well, it's not that. I mean, I'm happily married. I'm just saying, the gene pool can't be polluted anymore.
Right. There you go.
But
Yeah, no, I'm in the exact same boat as you. Like, I always wear my seatbelt. I always wear my helmet. Why the fuck is there a law that tells me that I can't do it? Doesn't make any sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always carry my firearm safely. Why do I need a law that tells me that I
Right.
can't because I might be unsafe?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, you might be unsafe.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Dear Lord.
And as always, if you have comments, complaints,
Concerns.
Keep to yourself.
gripes, moans, bitches, if you think we're full of shit, comment.
Yeah.
If you like what we're saying, comment. If you got something on the similar vein, you just want to get your perspective out there, comment. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Keep the conversation alive.
Yeah, Cigars and Sea Stories, man, on bloodstripes.com. You can go on the website and you can use the search engine to find questions and answers or different information in the database about a particular topic. Or you can go on there and ask a specific question if you want, and we'll get a subject matter expert to reply to it. And,
There you go.
Like Sebastian said, if you don't like the answer, feel free to sound off.
There you go.
If you do, again, feel free to sound off. Let us know we're on the right track.
But if you are full of shit, be prepared to be called out.
Oh yeah,
Like a
we're
motherfucker.
gonna do some of that. Yeah, absolutely. I love calling people out.
All right.
Are we done with this session?